Who is the highest damage unit in All-Star Tower Defense? Let's figure this out. I spent the past couple hours making this spreadsheet, so you guys know you're in for a good video. Let's get it cracking. All right, so no surprise to anybody, number 10 is Nezuko. Now, the one thing with Nezuko is she does have a drawback, and that is right here. She needs to have the enemies being bled. So because of that, it's a little bit of a disadvantage, but her DPS is 4 million, guys. All right, so how we factor that in is 8 placement, max level, etc. So you can see she's doing 3.72 divided by 12, and then you have to also factor in burn. Now what burn does is it does 7 over 12, so you have to factor that in as well. So I did all the math, and she's at right about 4 million DPS. All right, let's go take a look at her attack effects real quick in case you guys wanted to see. It's gonna be a little bit hard to tell because we have to get this Chainsaw Man popping off, but here we go. That's what she's looking like. Sheesh. And remember, the unit has to be bled, but dang, those are some sick attack effects, Nezuko. All right, speaking of Chainsaw Man is the 9th highest DPS in the game thanks to his high damage bleed. If we max him out, you're gonna see that he's doing 3.1 million with a nice cone AoE. Now, some downsides to him is he does not hit air units. All right. And honestly, though, he's a really, really good unit, guys. At the 9th highest DPS, definitely highly recommended you guys bring him along if you guys don't have any of the other units. He's also tradable, and it looks like his outfit is glitched. That's really funny. All right, his DPS is 4.2 million DPS, man. That is insane. All right, next up, guys, we have a newer unit. We have an even better burn unit than Nezuko, besides the fact that he's not full AoE, which is his main downside. All right, he is actually air, though. So the only downside to him, we'll compare him with Nezuko real quick, is the AoEs. So take a look at Nezuko's AoE, full AoE versus a nice cone AoE. Now, the thing is, he doesn't have to have the enemies being bled, so that's a very big advantage for him. And his total DPS is 4.25, so only slightly higher than Chainsaw Man. Just very, very, very slight. Let's take a look at his effect, guys. Take a look. Oh my goodness, looking sick. Sheesh. Honestly, though, he's actually one of the weaker Naruto units, as you guys can probably tell from my inventory. All right, next up we have in the number 7 position, we have Zorro. Now, Zorro is no longer the best bleed unit, but he is, I believe, the 2nd best bleed unit now. So let's go max him out, and we'll take a look at his DPS. So factoring everything, he's at 3.75. All right, but a little bit slightly higher DP, like slightly higher SPA. But even factoring in that SPA, guys, he is still higher than Chainsaw Man, with actually quite a bit of a difference, guys. He's at 4.84 million DPS. So a very, very heavy hitting unit, and definitely recommended you guys bring him, assuming you don't have the other blessed bleed unit in the game, which I'll show you guys in a second. All right, before we do, we have probably the weakest Black Flames unit, not counting Itachi, who got nerfed. All right, we have Sasuke. Now, what makes Sasuke special is he is the only Black Flames unit that can actually hit air units, and he's a hybrid from the start as well. He's 3.68 for 8, plus his effect lasts for 40 seconds, guys. Look at that. That's crazy. 21 hits over 40 seconds. Crazy. So that brings his total DPS to slightly higher than Zorro's. Very, very slightly. All right, so I'll show you these two. His DPS is actually 4.89 versus 4.84. So just a very, very slightly higher DPS. You can tell by that SPA. All right, then Zorro. But again, the problem is he also costs a lot more. But you only really you need less. It's slightly higher, guys. But again, the cost is definitely up there. All right, now there's actually a big gap between Sasuke and the next unit, Rimaru. The gap is actually pretty freaking massive. So the problem with Rimaru is the fact that she costs so much money. Look at that, guys. To max out one Rimaru, you're going to need $2.7 million, but you also get a pretty sick ability. So that's a big con. She has a nice AoE circle. We'll show you her effect too. Looking clean. Yeah, her DPS is very high, guys. 6 million DPS. Hers is actually really easy to calculate. Yeah, because 8 placement and then 6. And then 8 SPA. 6 million DPS. That is freaking insane. Honestly, she's actually the highest DPS unit that has no status effects like bleed, burn, or black flames, or a special ability that does damage. So she's technically still the highest DPS in the game, but only slightly and that's only based on raw damage. All right, let's get it. So next up, guys, we have some honorable mentions. So let me go show you guys those, because I know a lot of you guys are gonna be wondering why they're not on this list. All right, so first up on our special mentions, we have Mob. All right, now Mob actually has a fairly high DPS, but the problem is it's kind of hard to factor in his special abilities DPS, and his DPS without the special ability is not high enough to make it on this list. But again, Mob is definitely a great unit to bring, but his ability is a one-time use, which makes it impossible to calculate his DPS. Also, surprisingly, a unit you got that was actually really low DPS, guys, is actually going to be Light Yagami 6-star Prestige. He's actually the lowest unit I added on this list at only 8.56. Like, that is crazy low. The reason being is his ability has a 500 SPA. So depending on how you use him, he technically could be better, but yeah. All right, next up we have another unit that I think you guys are gonna think or like wonder why he's not on this list is Aizen. The problem is Aizen's special ability is also a one-time use, and it's kind of weird to calculate the DPS of that ability. But again, he's still a great unit to use. Definitely recommend it. All right, another unit that we did not include on this list, as you guys can probably tell, is Yugi, who also has a great ability. But again, it's a one-time use ability, and it's really hard to control, so we could not put it on this list. All right, now let me go show you guys the final best units. So also another unit I forgot to mention is Saber's not on this list. The reason being is her spot got taken up by a lot of units with special abilities. So that's the only reason she's not on this list. Same with Messi, because when I was like doing the math, I realized that units with bleed just straight up offer like way better DPS than any other unit, even like Gohan or even like Boral. Like, I'm gonna be honest, guys, Gohan isn't even on this list, and neither is Broly. Like, that's crazy. How are these 7 stars not on the list, man? I'm gonna be honest, I'm pretty sure the whole list is basically 6 stars. Just something really interesting to note. So let's actually show you guys the final few units. All right, so there's actually another big jump between Rimaru and this guy right here. So next up we have Obito. Now the thing about Obito that makes him so good is, again, he has Black Flames. You're gonna probably notice that the Black Flames units are basically OP. Basically, if a unit has Black Flames, bring it now. Oh my gosh, I'm so busted. Again, his only real drawback is his insane cost at 3.25 million. It is a little bit ridiculous, but here's his effect. His attack looks pretty sick. Not as great as some of the newer attack effects, but it's still clean. So that brings us to number 3. Guys, this is honestly one I didn't expect. Now, the real downside with this guy is 2 things. One, you're going to notice that his cost is kind of expensive, and also his DPS does factor in his ability. So you have to be using the ability often, otherwise his DPS is significantly lower. All right, the thing that makes him so great is his low SPA. And again, the downside is he is full AoE, but the range of 60 is kind of trash. And you can also place 8, unlike a lot of other units. So that's what makes him so good, and compared to Princess Apollo, because you can only place 4 Princesses Apollos. But you can't also sell them, so now it kind of messed everything up, which is unfortunate, but it's fine because we can just switch paths over here, and there we go. All right, so let's go to, surprisingly, only number 2, guys. We have Sid. Yeah, I know, I thought he was going to be the highest DPS in the game, but he's not actually, which is crazy. Now, he is the best bleed unit in the game, and honestly, factoring in, like, practicality, like, he's the best, because he also has this OP ability, which basically makes him the best. So I would rather honestly bring him. I would say he's technically is the best, but the reason he's not the best is because you can place 8 of the next guy, which technically makes him better. But again, you would never be able to afford to place 8 of the next guy in an infinite mode game. So for all practical purposes, he is the highest DPS unit in the game, but technically speaking, this unit right here is the highest DPS unit in the game. Well, actually, all right, so here we go. There's the effect. Pretty sick. Super fast SPA 2. Definitely, you guys got to bring him. His other downside is this tiny AoE circle. For a 7-star, it's pitiful. All right, so we have, next up we have Dark. All right, he has 4.18, and you guys can kind of compare it to Obito. So, like, yeah, Obito technically has a faster SPA, but this extra damage makes up for it somehow. Oh, plus he has the leader bonus on right now. That's why it's a little bit skewed. But, yeah, he has, like, about, like, 20 to 30% more DPS. So, really, really good unit. Honestly, he probably is the unit I would bring if I were you. Definitely bring this unit, guys. if you're doing an infinite mode run, you're gonna regret not doing it. His DPS is just insane. His DPS is actually 7.7 million, guys. The highest DPS in the game, not factoring in like this guy's weird ability. So then we have the real highest DPS unit in the game. You guys already know we have Toru. Oh my goodness. If you guys don't have Toru already, make sure you guys do this right now. Hit the subscribe button, otherwise the code won't work, and enter in this code, guys. Blams def not late 300k code. All right, make sure you guys go enter that ASAP before the code expires and get yourself a busted OP Toru who pretty much claps any story mode as well as most raid modes. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.